The city of Cape Town has temporarily closed the Muizenberg and Fish Hoek beaches due to public sewage spills. The prolonged power outages are being blamed for damage to infrastructure. We're now joined by Farouk Robertson, the communication officer for water and sanitation in Cape Town. Farouk, good afternoon. Appreciate your time. Bring us up to speed with what's transpired as far as those sewage spills are concerned.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners. Yes, we had two situations or incidents where we had sewer spillage onto the beaches and into the ocean. And that was on the 12th. We had a situation at Muizenberg. That was related to an electrical fault at the pump station. And that resulted in that sewer content being discharged onto the beach. For that reason, the beach was closed. Our City Health Department advised that, we should be closing the beach. And that is to ensure, that there's no infringement on public health, especially when you have the situation of anybody coming into contact with that water, contracting any gastrointestinal, problems. And 4 days later, 3.5 days later, in fact, the beach was reopened because every time when we have an occurrence of this nature, our City Health Department then dispatches their health officers, and then they regularly take samples. And these samples are then analyzed at our laboratories. And once they receive the analyses that tests, that the water is of a suitable quality in terms of the national water quality standards for that water body itself, they advise that the signage be removed, the beach be opened, and then the city then does a media release, just to advise the public that the beach is once again open for the bathers. The second incident was the one at Fish Hoek. That was a different scenario altogether. Fish Hoek being at a gradient itself, we had a blocked sewer that overflowed, and that water subsequently found itself onto the beach. Once again, the precautionary advisory from our City Health Department, and the beach was closed temporarily. And the following day, once the analyses were received, the beach was reopened again, and all the signage was removed. Very importantly,
Sorry, Farouk. Allow me to inquire. Obviously, you say that the results of the sewage spill was a case of load shedding. Now, load shedding is with us for the foreseeable future. How do we ensure that this does not recur? And have we gotten to the bottom of what it is actually that caused the sewage spill?
Yeah, in some of the cases, it is as a result of load shedding. And in those cases, what the city is looking at, you see, we have an arrangement where in the larger pump stations that we have standby generators. And then, but also in the smaller ones, what the impact is also that it impacts the electricity supply to these pump stations. And coupled to that electricity supply is then the telemetry, that relays the signals in terms of, the controls of controlling mechanism for these pumps. And that at times are being impacted. And then we sit with the situation where the possibility of that pump station experiencing an overflow. Now that would be determined by, it's all an issue of timing as to what the sump levels are at that point in time where the problem exists, and also, the availability of the pump to come on. So in that cases, we could have the possibility of spillage if the sumps are not large enough. And if we don't have, if there's the containment area is not capable to handle. But what we've done also is we've also realigned our teams, our maintenance teams, to the schedules, so as to try to minimize the impacts. But also taking into account, the city, the type of terrain that is being covered topographically, and the fact that the city has over 400 sewer pump stations sprawled across the city. You can well imagine, what an immense task it is just to be able to keep abreast of all those functions. But we're giving it the best shot that we can, and we're trying to mitigate as far as possible, and also, in that case, minimize the impact on the surrounding environment as well.
Now, talk to us about the cleanup process. So obviously there's contamination, there's sewage spill on the beaches. Not quite sure how vast an area is impacted. But once you've noticed that there's been this spillage, what's the process of cleanup and ensuring that you are then ready to have that water tested? Because from your ability to react within 24, 48 hours, it seems like a relatively simple process.
Yes, you see what happens is our guys make it look very simple. What we do is, once we have an issue at the pump station, if you say, for instance, we've had a pump that trips and a pump that starts malfunctioning as a result of this knock-on effect of load shedding, we bring in tankers, right? What is referred to also as the honeysuckers. Those large vacuum suction tanks that would then pump the levels down of that pump station. It would sustain that levels until the repairs are being done. And while we're doing that, in this case now, with the spillage on the beach itself, we have a recovery team that works on the beach. Then they remove all the contaminated soil in the area, and then they will also then do some bioremediation. So they would use a compound that would sort of assist in terms of remediating the area, so that the contamination is taken care of. As for the rest of the pollution itself, if it goes into the ocean, then it's about the intertidal action that happens, and that sort of clears the water. So we have our sampling people from the City Health Department, as well as some samplers within the Water and Sanitation Directorate as well. They are especially trained in terms of how to take these samples and in terms of monitoring, as well as signposting and ensuring that people are not entering those areas where the contamination has been noticed, and where the public has been then informed not to go. So above that, we also have in some areas also the assistance of law enforcement is required, especially if it is beaches that's very much frequented by lots of people. Then we also have that assistance. Then also our lifeguards that's on those specific beaches also assist. You can see what happens is once we have an incident of this nature, we have a very integrated approach, by various city departments in order to have the matter resolved. But public health for us is of primary importance. Very important also is that we ask our consumers. Everybody has linked to the city's sewers, whether it be domestic, whether it be business or industry. We ask them not to abuse those sewers. Whatever needs to go into a dirt bin must go into a dirt bin. It's only the human waste and normal wash waters that needs to go down into that sewer that is acceptable for that system itself. Now, if you block a sewer, you can block it at that point of entry, or it goes further down the line as the diameter is perhaps reduced. It can then cause overflows. That causes health issues for people, because the stagnant water with feces and other compounds in it, or it can also have even further reaching consequences in terms of that water going down into the stormwater system and then subsequently into the environment. Now, when people go down to the rivers and flays, they normally don't want to be associated with that water, but they could very well be part of the cause of the problem. So we are asking, let us be responsible citizens. Let us, in terms of what we had previously in a campaign that said, bin it, don't block it. Whatever needs to go into a dirt bin, put it in there. And and only allow the relevant, the feces and the wash waters that needs to go down into the sewer in there. It's all about responsible citizenship. It's about behavioral change. As our consumers, our residents, our businesses, If they do what they need to do, we as a city and the various service departments that's involved in maintaining the system, we will do our best to ensure that we have a compliance system that serves our communities.
And Farouk, before we let you go, I'd imagine that during this festive season where many beach lovers will be on the beach around the clock, that you would have a team working around the clock, or at very least on standby, should another incident occur.
That is definitely the case. You know, our water and sanitation services is a 24/7 operation. We've got our people, as I've said earlier on, we align them to the schedules as well. And then we have an integrated approach with various service departments jumping into action. The very important part is, the moment the city gets to know about an incident, we respond. Now, I was also asked the question, but do we always just wait for somebody to tell us? No. You know, we also have our, responsible citizens that would inform us about things. We also have our telemetry that would inform us about things, but also taking into account that we can't be all of the show at once. So, yes, we sincerely appreciate, the cooperation of the citizens, the members of the public, to assist us in that. And for that purpose, the city has a host of contact details whereby we are easily contactable. If you just go onto the city's website, you can contact us at capetown.gov.za /water. And if you need any, any additional information as to, how to engage in the city services, you will easily find it on there. We also have a universal number, the 0860 10 30 89. Which is the number that you can call at any point in time. It's a 24/7 number, and you can also engage with us, online via our e-services contact details, and then lodge the relevant complaint.
Farouk, appreciate your time. Farouk Robertson is the Communication Officer for Water and Sanitation in Cape Town.